مرحبا مساء الخير اسمي توم أنا رسام. I'm a painter from England, and as you see, yeah, there's me painting. And for me, painting, it comes from a very private, quiet place, a place of contemplation, a place of meditation. It's something that I need to do to process my feelings about the world around me. But for me, I see my role as an artist not just to express what's inside, but it's a way to connect to what's outside of me and hopefully contribute something really positive to society and inspire other people. Now, you may well ask, what is an English painter doing living in Lebanon? Anjad? مش معقول شو هالشغل. Right, yeah, I hear this. Well, for me, Lebanon is a wonderful, inspiring place, full of joy and pain, every kind of extreme, and it's very inspiring for an artist. And so, I really enjoy being here. And I really want to contribute something positive to your wonderful country. Now, I came here to live in 2009. I'd been here to begin with in 2006 to do a landscape commission for my mechanic in London, who's Lebanese, and he really missed his homeland. And I loved the place as soon as I came. And I eventually came to live here. Now, my work before had been as a traditional landscape painter. Now, when I came to live here, my work began to change. I began to take more risks. Perhaps, you know, the country had an effect on me. And I began to get more experimental. But the gallery that was representing me and every other gallery I tried to show my work to wouldn't accept my work. So I faced this problem. So the only way out of it was to create my own galleries. I had to go out and do it alone. The second concern that I had is probably a concern that a lot of us in this room share, and that is I'm alarmed by the rampant destruction of cultural heritage that's going on in Lebanon at the moment. A lot of the beautiful old abandoned buildings are being knocked down to make way for these huge towers, and we're losing something very special. And I think the country really needs these public spaces and beautiful buildings more than ever. And I really want to use my art to do something about this. It's very easy to feel helpless, but I feel that I can do something. But where and how? Now, on New Year's Eve, I went out for a party. The next morning, New Year's Day, I was stumbling back from the party with my wife, Noor, who is Lebanese, and in fact, that's me painting a picture of her. So we were coming back from the party, and we walked past this beautiful old building. And as soon as I walked past, I just had a feeling about it. I thought, perhaps I can paint here, and maybe even do an exhibition. And I saw that the place was for rent. And so I called up the number, and I met with the owners, the Fagali family, and I proposed to them my idea that perhaps I do an exhibition in the house. And they really liked the idea. And this idea gave them a reason to renovate the building at a much faster pace. And so together we set about making it happen. And I moved into the building, and we began renovating it. The pictures on the left are of how it was before, and then on the right, how it became. And here's my studio. So I moved into the building, and as a way to kind of feel the spirit of the place, to let the building inspire me, so that the work that I made had some relevance to the place that it was in. And inside the house, which had been empty for nearly 38 years since the beginning of the Lebanese Civil War. We discovered the belongings of the family who had previously lived in the house. Hundreds of photographs, typewriters, bottles of perfume still smelling beautifully, lots and lots of photographs. And it was really very moving to find this stuff. Now, what would you do if you found this? Now, I felt that I had to respond in some way. So I used some of the items to paint. Now, I found pictures of probably Saint Michel or Ramlat al-Baida beach back in the 60s. And I did paintings from these photographs. Paintings about memory, nostalgia, something beautiful that's been lost. And I also found photographs of the family who had lived in the house out dancing in nightclubs, probably in the 50s or the 60s. And from my experience, this hasn't been lost. The nightlife in Beirut is alive and kicking. So I did paintings which combined them dancing in the 50s and 60s and some of my friends in nightclubs in the present day. I was looking for a title for the exhibition. I didn't know what to call my project. And then I found this. It's an invitation card to the shop that was owned by the family who lived in the house. And I thought, that's it, carousel. Isn't life like a carousel? And particularly in Lebanon, I thought this is a wonderful image. It's something magical, it's something joyful, and it's a way to express somehow the resilience of life that I see around me. And this is true of human life everywhere, but particularly relevant, I think, here. And it also has a double edge, as well as being a positive symbol. In some ways, it's just going around in circles, which, yeah, there's potentially an unhealthy amnesia there, that we're just avoiding problems. But I also understand that sometimes the challenges and problems we face are so difficult that we have to avoid them just to keep going. So I started making work about this. And then I discovered this newspaper article written in English by the man who was the patriarch of the family. Now, I found out that they were Armenians, and the patriarch of the family was an extraordinary man who wrote about his escape from the Armenian genocide. And he arrived in Lebanon as a penniless refugee, and he became prosperous. And he had a big, happy family. And he lived in this house, and he had a large family and filled the house full of music and laughter. And I was so inspired by this man that really I felt that I had to honour them and his family. So I dedicated one room to them and their memory. I painted pictures of them from passports that I'd found. And we should remember these people and the Armenians, obviously, this weekend. As we know, yesterday was the 100-year anniversary of the genocide. So one day, hopefully, they will get justice. Now, I thought I must meet these people, or at least tell them, find out where they are. And so, through the owners, the Fagali family, they told me that they were living in New York. And so I sent them a message to say, I found all your stuff. Is it okay if I use some of it for an exhibition? And they were delighted. They were so happy that their dear family home, that they'd never forgotten, was being used as a place for art and creativity again. And so they sent me lovely presents and flowers, and it was very moving. And then I received one email from the great-great-grandson of the remarkable man Mahdi Ross, who survived the genocide, Rafi Vartanian on the left with the guitar, and he's a musician from Baltimore, and at the time was living in Yerevan. And so I invited him to come and perform a concert in the house during the exhibition. I was delighted he said yes. And this really represented a triumphant return for a family who had left their home in such traumatic circumstances at the beginning of the Lebanese Civil War. And so we had this wonderful concert. Now the concert came after another event, and I'll tell you about that now. As well as putting me in touch with this family, doing this project really put me in touch with my own family. Now, my father was a judge in England. He's always been fascinated by the history of the Middle East. And after he retired, he went back to university, went to Oxford, and he ended up doing a PhD in the last days of Armenia before the genocide. And this was an extraordinary coincidence. And so I thought, why don't I put the family in New York in touch with him so that they can tell him their story, and he can come to the house and do an exhibition and do a lecture about his research and honour the family. And so he did. He came over and did this wonderful lecture. And also, doing this project about loss and absence and memory really put me in touch with the memory of my own mother. Now, my mother died tragically when I was 10, and this event really had a massive effect on me, and I'd struggled to deal with it ever since. And doing this project, I think, really helped me unlock a door in my own heart that I'd kept locked for many years. And I did this portrait, and I dedicated one room to her. So it was a lovely, lovely experience. And many people came to the exhibition, hundreds of people, and it was a great success. And after my exhibition, the Fagali family have kept the building's life as a cultural centre, hosting exhibitions and parties, as you see. And that is just fantastic. You know, this is a big part of my concept, is to start these initiatives, and hopefully it really benefits the whole city, and other artists can use it after me. But I was obviously very sad leaving the building. I put so much of my heart and soul into it. And I was wondering, well, what can I do next? And then, on Easter Day last year, I was walking down the Corniche with my wife, Noor, and we looked up and saw this. Now, I'd always been fascinated by this building, ever since my first visit to Lebanon in 2006. But for some reason, this time I felt was the right time to knock on the door. And so we saw washing on the line, and we thought, on the balcony, and we thought, maybe it's not abandoned. It's in a bad state, but maybe someone's living there. So Nora said, come on, let's go and knock on the door. Let's see. And so we did. And eventually, I met the last resident of the house, Faisa El-Hazm. And she had lived in the house, her family had rented the house for the past 50 years. And she welcomed me in. She found out that I was an artist, and she's a very cultured, artistic lady. And she said, why don't you come in and paint? So it was a wonderful opportunity. This is my painting of her, by the way. And over the summer, I set up my studio in the house as she was packing to leave. And this was a really quite emotional moment of transition for her. And it was something I tried to capture in my work. And over this summer, she told me more and more about her family. And also, we struck up this great friendship. And the more I found out, the more I started to be very concerned about what was going to happen to the building. I thought, oh my God, not another one's going to be knocked down. So I thought, I've got to meet the new owner. And I found out who he was, Hisham Jarudi. He is a property developer. And the house is surrounded by these big towers. And I was very concerned that he was going to put a big tower here. And this wonderful place was going to be lost. And so I did this painting, which for me sums up the vulnerability of the building, but also expresses the strength and resilience of the place, which in some ways is symbolic of how I feel about the whole country. You know, it's surrounded by problems, but somehow we keep going. So I went to Hisham and I said, I've got an idea for you. I'm an artist, I've done this before. After Faisal leaves, will you give me the building and I'll show you how wonderful it could be as a cultural venue. And he said yes. He said, okay Tom, we worked out a deal, and he gave me real freedom to go ahead. And so I did. And again, honouring memory was a big part of the project. Faisal had told me about her late brother, Sami El Khazin, and he was a great painter and designer. And she showed me his paintings, which really inspired me. And so I dedicated one room to him and his memory. And then stories about the house started coming out from other people, and particularly from descendants of the Ardati family. The Ardati family built the house in 1882. And the great-great-granddaughter of the man who built the house, Muhammad Ardati, her name's Sulafa Subla, wrote this beautiful poem about the house, which she wrote on the wall in one of the rooms. So a lot of it was about the memory and the history of the place, as well as inventing a new present for the house, and also thinking about the future of the place. So the exhibition became very much about time. Now, one of the biggest challenges was, how am I going to light up the building? And then the lighting designer and a friend, Tariq Murad, he came up with this great idea to light the building up like a Christmas tree from the outside, so that the building was announcing itself to the city. Look, I'm here, I'm still strong, I'm alive. And then for the opening night, I managed to get the patronage of the Prime Minister's wife, Lama Tamam Salam, who supported the project, and also the Minister of Culture, Raymond Areji. And I made a speech to all of these dignitaries and the owner, Hisham Jarudi, got them all together, and I made a speech to them about the importance of keeping the building, preserving history, and making more cultural spaces. And this is another big part of my project, is that I feel that artists can make a difference. We can reach the highest levels of society and contribute something really positive. I also got some musicians friends to come down and, of course, have a good party. You can't have an opening in Lebanon without a good party. So the story just started spreading around the world. Local media, then the BBC, newspapers in New York, and Berlin, and Paris, and Sydney. The story was spreading around the world. It was really quite overwhelming. And another big part of this project was collaborating with more artists. Now, my wife Noor is a sculptress and a designer, and she made several wire sculptures that were dotted around the exhibition. And she made this wire dress, which responded in some way to this painting that I did of the Arus wheel, which is in Luna Park, which you can see from the balcony of the house. So in some way, I was connecting this exhibition with the last one, the carousel. It was as if the carousel was coming real. And she hung the dress by this painting. And I invited the performance artist, Nadine Soures, to do a series of performances in the house. She got into the wire dress, which was made for her, and then she put some fabric over it and started spinning. And so she became a carousel herself. The paintings were coming alive for people. And not only did they come alive for the artists, all the children that came to the exhibition started playing with this dress as well. So it became a wonderful interactive feature of the show. This is a girl from SOS Children's Villages, who I work with a lot in Lebanon. And also I invited musician friends to come down, and we did several parties and concerts. Now here is TEDxNDULouaize on the left, doing his electro disco music. And he set up a studio in one of the attic rooms, and we invited several musicians to come down, and he recorded all these musicians and is making an album about music in the house at the moment for a film that I'm making about the project. And one of the musicians was Arthur Satyan, the jazz pianist, and here's me jamming on the trombone with him at one of those concerts. Now, I invited lots and lots of children as well, because I feel that this is a vital part of my project. It's not just about putting on an art show, it's about contributing something to the future of our society. And of course, we have to think about the children. Children from local schools, IC and ACS, and also less fortunate children. Children from SOS, children from a Syrian refugee orphanage near Bamdoun came down, and also children from the Home of Hope orphanage for abused and abandoned children. And you're going to hear a lot more about that later from my friend Brady. So I feel that these buildings should be open to everybody, not just the rich, but art can play a role in opening up these magical fairy tale places, and they really light up the imagination of young children particularly. I think this is really important. These places should be for everyone, common grounds where people can come and express themselves and hopefully make the country a better place. This is what it's all about. It's about following your heart, making art, or whatever it is that you do with love and passion. Now, if any of you have an idea, however small it may be to begin with, I really encourage you to pursue it with all your hearts. Make that call, knock on that door. You never know where it may lead. Thank you.